Here.
Mr. Morabley?
Here.
Mrs. Nelson?
Here.
Mrs. O'Halloran?
Here.
Mr. Wrigley?
Here.
Mrs. Tegmeyer?
Here.
Mrs. Sedley?
Here. If I could just take a brief moment of the board's time. When we met in November, we had decided that we would allocate a half hour. We would meet at 6:30 today for the purpose of hearing information relating to an issue that had been brought to the board's attention regarding an individual student. The parent of that student is making a special request of the board. So in order to facilitate that, we've got 5 minutes that are going to be allocated for that parent. And then following that, the board will be able then to make a decision as to whether or not it is going to enter into closed session or not. So at this point, I'm going to defer to the parent, Gina Nelson. If you could please go ahead and use this opportunity.
Well, I would just like this issue to be heard in open session because I understand that closed session is usually to protect the privacy of the individual student. And in this case, it's not just an individual student. I have 2 children that we're looking to do this for, and not just us, but I mean maybe there's other families out there that would have the same objection. And rather than have this all, come before you again, maybe they could, read about it in the minutes or whatnot, and pretty much get an idea of where the board stands. And I did look at the Illinois Open Meetings Act, and I actually don't have the whole thing in front of me, but I just have closed session.
Actually, you do now because you have the school board. And truly, if you wanted to reference it, it is in the Illinois School Code.
Do you know?
Oh, you don't need those.
I'm not that good with it, but I do know that it's in there. But
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to let you know that it is in there.
Thank you very much.
I know because I meant you to look at it. But.
I know that it talks about closed session. It allows you for closed session based on student disciplinary cases, which this would not fall under, and then the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students. And so this isn't really an individual student, it's basically like a family matter. So that's why we're requesting that it be in open session.
Okay.
And let me, I'll say one more thing. And because of the fact that I'm a school board member, and I talk about this to my family, to my friends, to attorneys, to the media, and to whoever may want to, hear my case. I'm on Facebook all the time talking about it. So, I mean, I don't want to be held to well, we talked about it in closed session, and now you're violating that, because I do talk about this issue. It's a hot topic for me, and it's not just for me. It's just like I've been talking about this for years. I've gone to see speakers all across the area in relation to this, so I don't want to be at a forum and then, talking about it and then someone being like, and then she talked about, wasn't that in your closed session? I don't want to be accused of that, so I want to just put it out there now that I'm willing to give up our right to closed session so that, this will be out in the open.
Okay. Gina, I just want to get a little bit of clarity on the matter. And for the board to know that Gina and I did have a conversation prior to tonight's meeting just to talk about how we could facilitate her request. To me, there seems to be 2 parts to this. The part where the board can hear the parental concerns that are being raised on the matter, as well as the board discussing it for the purpose of drawing some conclusion. It is your desire that what part of that process be held in open session?
I'd like all of it to be an open session.
Okay, that would be your request.
Yeah.
Okay. I also wanted to just obtain clarity. This was brought to the board's attention because the process that you had followed had gone through the administrative procedures, or had gone through administration, and it was not resolved through the administrative track. So when things are not resolved, it can be brought then to the board under the uniform complaint procedure. What was brought to the board is my understanding that it is related to your child.
Well, this year Sierra tests. Next year Aubrey will test. So I don't want to have to come back and do this again next year. I want to just kill all the birds with one stone.
But I want to be clear. You made a comment earlier about wanting this to be an open session for the benefit of others who might be in a similar situation.
Sure.
But what I am questioning at this point is the reason this board is convening to discuss this matter. It seems to me that what was presented to the board related to your child and your complaint, not the community as an entity.
Okay.
You know, unless I'm wrong on that one, but
I'm trying to think. I think I sent you an email that stated that, but I could be wrong myself.
well, I think we need to go back to what was presented to the board at the last meeting.
Well, you know, I mean, that's fine. I can alter it, though. I mean, it's not just for the benefit of one of my children. I have 2 children. So, I mean, if you'd like me to start the process over, I could. Is it related to my family? Well, specifically my family, but more, it could be related to anybody, really. If there's other families that have this objection, maybe they would want it, maybe they'd be interested in it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if families have this objection. Do you know of any other families?
I can't say that it is something that has been brought to my attention, but my purpose here is to obtain clarity as to why the board is convening. And again, I'm going to go back to, it was my understanding that it was as a result of a request that you had made of the district to opt your child out of standardized testing. And I believe that is what has brought us here today. So that is what I want to make sure that we focus on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't it more specific than that, though?
Please.
Opt out of standardized testing because of religious beliefs.
Of religious
Well, the ITBS is mostly.
But because of religious beliefs.
First Amendment right and 14th Amendment right, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark, for clarifying that. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask before we determine whether or not this will be an open or a closed session item?
Well, I thought, Terry, did you say that there was a waiver available?
Yes, and this was the discussion after we came out of closed session last time. I think you had posed a question, Gina. The Open Meetings Act allows you to go into closed session. It doesn't mandate that you do it on any particular topic. The difficulty here is that we risk, during the course of this appeal, in potentially divulging some student record information. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Now, certainly the parent can consent to say anything he or she wants about a child. But to protect the district, I made the statement, you're right, Karen, that when I've faced this before, it tends to be in more student disciplinary situations. At the very least, if a board would agree to hold such things in open session, we would ask for a consent to be executed. And I did bring one, in case we need that.
Okay. All right.
I have a question. Does it have to be signed by both parents, though? Because if one parent signed it and agreed to it, but yet the other didn't.
Normally, we would want both.
Okay.
You could call him on his cell phone if you need to.
Any other questions? Okay. Then the way I would like to propose that we proceed is whether or not the board will enter into closed session on this is strictly a vote. So whenever the board goes into closed session, we ask for a motion, I ask for a second, and then we do a roll call vote. If the board is in favor of going into closed session, then the vote should dictate whether or not we do. Okay. So I am going to ask for a motion, please, that the board go into closed session to consider matters relating to individual students.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the board go into closed session to consider matters relating to individual students.
Mrs. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Mirably?
Yes.
Mrs. Nelson?
No.
Mrs. O'Halloran?
No.
Mr. Wrigley?
Yes.
Mrs. Tegmeyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sedlak?
Yes. The ayes have it. The motion carries. The board will be entering into closed session. We're going to ask the member of the audience to please leave at this time, and when the board reopens for its regular meeting, we'll ask you to please come on back in. Erica, could we please open up the upstairs?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Gina, I don't know if the camera's on, but can I ask you to make sure that it's off, please?